What it do, Sports Betting Nation? Ace is high here with you. I am under the weather, but we got college football this weekend. Could not miss this episode. I got the real Jay-Z here to my right. How you doing, Mr. Jay-Z?
Doing great. How does it go, sports betting world?
I think their answer is great because all the opportunity we have these days. I don't know if you've been catching the podcast much, Mr. Jay-Z, but man, there's just so much to talk about. I'm excited though, because we're going to focus specifically on college football tonight. No?
I'm excited to jump into that. Let you and Hardways Mike take down the MLB action and all else going on in the world these days.
Absolutely. I love it. And anyone listening to this episode, go check out our YouTube video. We are doing a video walkthrough of exactly what the real Jay-Z and I are doing. And this is similar to our normal workflows for us getting our bets in on Saturday. But without further ado, Mr. Jay-Z, let me hand the mic to you. You walk us through. Let us know where we're going to start this fine day.
Yeah, we'll kind of follow a little bit of our emails going out Monday, Thursday. If you haven't jumped into those, be sure to subscribe to those. Feature conference of the week. First one we're looking at Friday night, Virginia at Maryland.
Virginia at Maryland.
Woo. Oh yeah, Maryland definitely has been looked a little better. Favorite here out of the gate. Virginia's had a little bit of struggle. Tough to be too critical with everything they had to deal with last year. But looking at this one, total's the one thing we pointed out and we're looking at. Total's sitting at 48.5. Maryland, the first two games, they've put up 45 and 66. So with that, you think, can they cover the whole thing themselves? What are your thoughts there, Aces?
I don't think they're going to cover the whole thing themselves. I don't think Vegas is going to get it that wrong. I don't know. Maybe Virginia doesn't score. Is that the thought process here? I'm over on the Sports Betting Intel This Week in College Football. For anyone that can't see, I'm looking at what the real Jay-Z is talking about right here. And actually, Mr. Real Jay-Z, you need to use this tool because you got a 47.5 right now if you want that under in this game. Over 47.5, probably not the way you want to go, but it's showing me the best lines right here. I don't think Maryland gets it by themselves, but I do think this game could go over if that's a bet you're looking for.
And that is one to look at and consider. I mean, it could be moving down as well with the hurricane coming in, and we're going to touch on that a little bit more later. But weather, again, it's a little early in the year. Sometimes we have this hurricane weather, but usually it's when the cold temps kind of hit the north. But that could be a factor as Hurricane Lee is rolling into the East Coast.
Yeah, it's going to be a factor for a couple games. We're going to have to watch out, look for changes maybe in the lines. Let's see in the totals. I jumped to Maryland versus Virginia. We're going to look at that total number. We're going to see how it moved. You quoted 48.5, which obviously was the main line at one point. It's probably been changed here. Yeah, we jump in and we see it has been changed. Went from the main line right here at minus 112 all the way up to plus 100. So we're getting some movement. It went down a point. That's not huge. I mean, does it flip the scales for you now? You got to hammer that over because we got one number less?
I don't know that it's making that much difference. I mean, also to consider, Maryland at this point has played Towson and Charlotte, not much of teams. So there is that to consider as well. Virginia did play Tennessee in their first game, so they did have a rough go of it there.
Right, and I'm looking at the game breakdown here. One thing I wanted to see, and I like to look at this for a lot of games, and that's why I'm going to jump in here and check it out specifically. You know, I'm a line guy, so I'm going to look at this line yards per game. We're at 2.93 for Maryland. You know, they pass the ball, though. Their line is not the one that's going to win them the game. Virginia defense is at 3.26, which is not great. Bender break there. I don't know. Let me jump over to the other side of the ball, which would have Maryland on defense, 2.95, 3. Not great for either one of the teams. It's probably not something, though, in this game I'd specifically judge it by because, you know, the Maryland team and their passing team. So we'll see what comes of this one. I'm gonna stay away from it for now. Let me check the best lines again now that we got it down here. Minus, for anyone listening to us, you can get all this information on our site, sportsbettingintel.com. Yeah, I mean, pretty close across the board for the totals. We do have that 46. Woof. Oh man, that's something if you want to bet that. But I think I'm going to stay away from this one, Mr. Jay-Z.
Yeah, that's fair. The next one I do want to dive into a little bit here is looking at that Minnesota Row the Boat Gophers and the
Oof.
North Carolina Tar Heels. Looks like the line is at 7.5 currently. Um, I'm just trying to pull up here. Oh, you've got it right in front of us here. That's perfect. 7.5. Drake May and those Tar Heels struggled. Bit of a back and forth game against Appalachian State, double overtime win. Did you catch any of that game there, Aces?
I caught a little bit of it, mostly on highlights. The Woj and I did talk about it on the College Football Rundown the other day. Anybody that wants to check it out. But you know what? North Carolina came through, and Appalachian State's a team that can beat anyone, any given Saturday.
So what do you think about that 7.5 then against the Gophers? They've had a little bit of a slower start, mostly on offense. I'm just looking at what they've had so far. Yeah, Nebraska, that 13-10 shootout. Eastern Michigan 25-6. They have won both games. So I mean, they have that going. They are winning the games. But can they compete with that offense and be able to put up enough points to stay close with Drake May and that Tar Heel offense?
Yeah, and it's a good point. I mean, if you're going to take North Carolina, you might as well take them on the spread, because if they're going to win this football game, they're probably going to beat Minnesota pretty good. If Minnesota wins this football game, though, I don't really care about that 7.5 points. I don't know that it's going to be a 5-point game where that 7.5 comes into factor. So in a game like this, I'm looking at our This Week in College Football right now. I can go into the detailed matchup if I want, or the game breakdown, but I'll just go off of this. The money line at 245. If I was betting Minnesota, I bet them to win this straight up. The heck with the points. What do the points mean? We got a 28.99% probability according to that plus 245 line. I don't know. I think Minnesota maybe does win this game 1 out of 3 times at least. So I think in my head, we got a little bit of an EV on this one.
Oh, interesting. Interesting take there.
Yeah. I'm not going to bet it though, because I don't want to be cheering against my bet. I'm going to bet my boy, Mr. Mac Brown over there at North Carolina to crush him. But we're talking numbers here. We're talking 1 out of 3. You got to win it to be profitable, right? And that's what you'd be doing. I don't think this is going to be one of those 1 out of 3. I do think North Carolina just crushes them.
Oh, that's what we love here, getting your perspective on the numbers. Don't other than, maybe Mac Brown, Longhorns, and Iowa, where there's a little scotch of bias, but otherwise you try and stick straight to the numbers.
I'm a numbers guy. And plus Mac Brown, though, he's had a little bit of controversy this week. I don't know if it'll affect the football team, but going back and forth about the transfer committee and their decision on not letting one of the players play at North Carolina right away. He's got himself in a little bit of hot water there. I don't know that it'll affect the game, but it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that from Mac Brown. So it does shock me a little bit.
Interesting indeed. One other note wanted to point out is, as we did hit on the email this week, we did focus on the ACC, but really it was more the unpublicized, or not that I've seen much about, the ACC Big Ten Showdown, where they've got 6 games this week. So a couple other of those just want to mention as we pass through that we haven't mentioned yet. Louisville, Indiana, which will be at 11 on the Big Ten Network on Saturday. Also, we'll have Northwestern traveling to Duke. Duke is an 18.5-point favorite there. Virginia Tech and Rutgers. Oh, yeah, obviously perfect. You can pull up there just ACC if you want there, and you can see all the different ACC Big Ten matchups there. Virginia Tech at Rutgers, another one, 7-point favorite for Rutgers. And then we've got Syracuse at Purdue, and Purdue's getting 2.5. Ooh, what are you thinking there? I haven't seen much of Syracuse this season, but I know Purdue's been struggling, and that's another team you follow pretty closely. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, you could guess where I'm going to go in this one. I'm going to bet Purdue. I mean, no question about it. The question comes in though in this, and this is why we're going through our tools. Again, anybody that wants to watch YouTube video, you can follow along with us visually, and I'll show you how I am using these tools. I'm going to bet Purdue. There's no question about it. What I'm looking at now is, one, what am I going to bet them on? Am I going to bet them on the spread? Am I going to bet them on the money line? Those are really the 2 best options for me. I'm looking right here and I see plus 2.5. That's not that big 3 number, is it? That 3 number is very important in football, is it not, Mr. Jay-Z?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, even looking to, it's obviously early in the season. It's tough to overly judge based on matchups. But if you look at it, I mean, Purdue with the loss against Fresno State, who's a solid team, year in, year out, not your top echelon, but they win some games. They also played Virginia Tech where they got the win. But then if you go back and look on the flip side at Syracuse, who blew out Colgate and also blew out Western Michigan, it's kind of looking at that. Is that what some of the odds makers are seeing? Big wins versus actual quality of opponents. I mean, I know they take a lot into consideration, but is that a factor for Purdue? Close to even, but again, trailing in the line at this point.
Yeah, I mean, everything's a factor, right? They're trying to put as much of their data together and create factors off of everything they can, including news for that matter. I have not heard much news in this one specifically. I guess to the numbers that they're putting out, and that's all we can go off of. We only have the option of betting what they offer. Right now, to answer my question, while you were talking, I was looking into this spreads to see what I can do. I can get an alternate line -1.5 Purdue. Just hope it's not that 1 point game at +125 on DraftKings. Again, they won't take my money specifically, but someone can get this bet. I'd have to drop down. Actually, no, FanDuel will take my money. So I guess I'd have to drop down to the +114 here, just because that's the way it works when you're a profitable sports bettor. They don't take your money. But I think that's the way I would play this one, because if I take that 2.5, it's minus money. If I want to take that money line, I believe, let's jump up here and look at the best money line. No, +120. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You just take the money line, because that 114, that's the problem. Is we're over on DraftKings again. I can't bet this. So as I'm going through here, you're seeing my process. I can't bet this, right? DraftKings doesn't take my money. I'm sure some people listening to this have the same issue I do, the same issue Mr. Hardways Mike has. I won't speak for you, real Jay-Z. I'll let you tell the people. But so this is my process. I can't take it on DraftKings. Where am I looking next? Maybe I look to get that +115 on Caesars, because they'll take my money. Maybe I just looked at money line +115. Boom. There we go. There is the process I just did. I went through it with you guys as to how I'm going to bet Purdue. Now I know I'm going to take Purdue +115 over there on Caesars.
Well, that's fantastic, because again, we obviously offer a lot of the main books here, but maybe everyone doesn't have all five or all books we offer, and maybe has one or two, which we absolutely encourage to have at least two options to shop your lines. Again, maybe they're going to be the same, but when they're not, you got to take advantage of anything you can on the book. So again, even if you're not going to sign up to 5 different books and you're just a casual bettor, it's well worth it to split your money between 2 books, just so you have the option to shop around and get that best line.
Agreed. And there's always things like right now I'm looking at how that money line has moved. It was up at +122. So maybe I wait to put my bet in a little bit. So I'm using this tool again, and I'm saying, well, maybe it does jump back up there again come game day. It's now Thursday night as we're recording. We got another 2 days. So maybe I wait off and hold on my bet. It's probably not going to break. If you're looking at the chart I'm looking at, probably not going to break that +115 much. So I got time to make my bet. And now I know that.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to slide over to one that might cause a little controversy this week. Western Michigan taking on your Iowa Hawkeyes. This line we noted as one of the bigger moves. Looks like it opened 25.5 and it slid up to 28.5 with Iowa the favorite. Do you by chance know the last time Iowa has covered 28 points in a game?
I don't know. I'd have to guess it was Northern Iowa some years ago. But I have not seen that number in some time. Being a Hawkeye fan, I'm looking at those lines every week too.
You know what? We've got to jump back to October 1st of 2021, where it was actually Maryland at the time, where they won 51-14, which is surprising. But on that point, where I'm really going with this is it took looking back multiple years, and even there you can go back further, and it's difficult to find an Iowa team that has covered that many points, even with this Brian Ferentz contract. What is it? Shoot for 325, whatever their slogan is. It just hasn't really played out that way this year. I mean, my theory, again, this is just my theory from watching the games. It's Kirk's letting him be a little more aggressive in the first quarter and a half, 2 quarters, and then they really kind of go back. They've been up both games against weaker opponents. They've been in control, been up a couple scores, and then they really just kind of ease on it and say, hey, our defense isn't going to give up 2 scores. And they've been kind of coasting out the second halves, which, again, obviously it could change. But with that said, I don't think they're going to cover that 28.5. I know you like them to win by 40, but I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, it's no question. I mean, if they had an alternate for it, I would take them minus 40. Let me just say that right now. I was going to crush them. Though the logic you're saying, I mean, it makes sense. Clearly, it makes sense. Iowa does not score that many points, but here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say if you're going to take that, you didn't exactly say it. You alluded to the fact though you're going to take that Western Michigan plus 28.5 just because the fact Iowa can't score that many points. If that was my logic and if that was my theory, I'd probably jump over to those totals. We got that 42.5. If you jump over to our tool right here is showing you bet that on DraftKings, you're at 42. You want to jump over to do the under 42.5. You can get that on MGM at minus 110 standard juice. So you get a whole extra hook in your pocket. So that's probably how I would play this if I thought, you know what, I was not going to score a lot because I'm pretty sure that Iowa's defense is going to shut down Western Michigan. So in my mind, that's a better bet.
As you said that, I'm clicking around, going back to our as we were just talking about Syracuse a little bit there. They were the team that Syracuse did take down 48-7. So maybe I believe what Western Michigan's MAC school, right?
Western Michigan, yes, they are MAC school.
Yep, maybe they're just on a down year, and maybe Iowa's going to decide they're going to blow a team out. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, again, they're probably blowing out. What does that constitute when you're an Iowa Hawkeye? You beat them by 14. It's blowing a team out. I guess. I think their defense is going to blow them out. We have a group, that we're in together, and I sent a text message today. I don't know if you caught it, but hey, anybody that bet should aspire to be in this group. Talk about some real sharps. Let me tell you, I was showing the lines for Iowa exact scores to blank Western Michigan. I mean, you're getting some numbers. You're getting plus 15,000, plus 13,000 on these exact scores. You could take a bunch of them, essentially betting that Iowa is going to blank Western Michigan, keep them to zero. On $20 bet, you can, with your losses on every other one, because you can only win one exact score, you can still pull back a dime easy. I don't know. It's something I'm thinking about doing. I haven't decided for sure, but I think this Iowa defense is going to shut down Western Michigan.
With that, I have to look back. I feel like your number stopped at 28-0. So that 28.5 is looking real good.
It is. Yeah. Although I'm probably not going to win any of my bets, so it might not be. So we shall see. I think Iowa wins the football game. That's what matters in my heart. So
yeah, absolutely. All right, move on a little bit. Another one we mentioned was in the email this week was movement on the total, which was the Florida State, the number 3 Florida State team, who's really looking good. Honestly, surprised me. Wasn't high on them preseason, but they've obviously come out strong this week. I mean, they took down, or this year they've taken down LSU, which was a shock. But they're taking on Boston College. This total was initially set at 56.5 and down to 48.5. As we alluded, Hurricane Lee coming through, so there's prediction of quite a bit of wind for sure, and maybe some rain. So again, just something to keep in mind. This was one I actually looked back. I'm sorry, I misspoke on our first one we talked about. It was Maryland. They've actually scored 38 exactly each. So that 48.5 or down to 47.5 is it. Can Virginia scored enough to keep pace with what they put up. But moving on to the Florida State, they were the ones that actually won 45-66 themselves. So is it one Boston College is going to find a defense and slow them down, or is it going to be Hurricane Lee that slows down that Seminole offense?
Yeah, this is another game I'm going to stay away from. I am happy. What I'm doing here. Anyone listening, not watching, I'm jumping through to watch how these totals have moved. The real Jay-Z just mentioned it, and he's 100% dead on right now. I'm looking at the 48.5 line. I believe I was looking at it from Bet Rivers to see how it's moved. It was at plus 163. I mean, it's dropped all the way down to minus 118. Jeez. I mean, that's a move, that's a huge move. And it's because of that weather he mentioned. But I was going to say before, I'm excited to actually be able to watch this game. It's on ABC, which is showing us, hey, you want to figure out what channel your team is this week to watch your favorite football team. This week in college football is telling you right here. It also tells you where you can stream it too when that's a possibility. But I normally can't watch these games. ACC, it's one reason I don't bet the ACC a lot, is because I don't get to watch them play on the ACC network because I don't get it. But this one's on ABC. I'm excited for that. I'm not going to wager any money on this. I mean, Florida State is a team that came out much better than I expected. I did not expect them to take down LSU. They did, and they looked good doing so, if I say so myself. I'm going to stay away from this one. I'll have to heed to your opinion as to where we go in this game.
Yeah, I appreciate you slowing down and pointing everything out. I take advantage of all the features just that we look at and see every day and use and utilize and kind of gloss over and underappreciate the simple things of, what channel to watch the game I'm looking for this week on. But yeah, looking a little more, Boston College, they've given up points this year, so they're going to give up points to Florida State. They've played Northern Illinois, I know another favorite of yours, and Holy Cross. And I mean, they've given up 27.5 in those games. So they're going to give up points. So really it's coming down to how much of a factor you think the weather's going to be, whether they can get over this total. Or for that matter, what's the line at there? I don't even have that pulled up right now.
20,
you got it sitting out there?
Yeah, I got it 26. If you want Florida State's the best line, minus 26 on DraftKings. You want the best line on Boston College, plus 27. You want to head over there on Caesars. A whole point difference at that standard juice.
Yeah, perfect thing to note there. That's what we're looking for here. Let me see. What other games did we have to talk about here? Anything you had on your docket that you wanted to mention here, Aces?
Since you put me on the spot, I guess I tweeted earlier today from the College Football Rundown account, actually, and I mentioned how when we were talking on our podcast the other day, we were disagreeing completely about the BYU game. So maybe I'll pull up player props here and we'll go into a specific player prop. Let's see if we can find it on here. You know where I'm going with this, right? I'm looking for Mr. Jefferson, KJ Jefferson. I'm looking for, and this is going to surprise some people, I'm looking for interceptions thrown. I want to look to see what the best line is here. It looks like it hasn't moved much. I'm guessing there's not a lot of people other than Aces out there betting KJ Jefferson interceptions thrown, but it is exactly where it was this morning. Best line right now is plus 106 for him to have over half of one reception. That line is on Caesars. DraftKings is right on the heels at the plus 105. So, hey, pick your poison. It's not much difference there. But I'm thinking that maybe BYU could pick him off. They've had a few on the season already. I'm not a big fan of KJ Jefferson. I like BYU in the football game. I think that Arkansas is going to have to pass the football. They're going to want to run it a lot, but I don't think they're going to be able to. I think they're going to have to pass. Hey, how about this over on KJ Jefferson?
I'm just stunned and reeling from the interception talk on KJ Jefferson, my starting fantasy quarterback. I'm just reeling here.
Well, you took down my Hawkeyes, so it's a perfect symbiotic relationship we have here.
Fair enough. Yeah, the player props are fantastic. It's a fantastic addition that we've got in there this year and a great tool to utilize.
Here, you know what? I feel a little bad, real Jay-Z. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the SEC. I'm going to get to our player props a little different. You guys can see, anybody following us on YouTube, you can see this workflow. I'm going to go to the BYU Arkansas game here on This Week in College Football. I'm going to click on player prop analysis. This is going to bring us up to a little bit of a different screen, but we see Mr. KJ Jefferson instead of interceptions, which are right up here at the top. Coincidentally, let me tell you, I'm going to scroll down. I don't know. It's just staring us in the face. We got to bet that over, but let's look at passing touchdowns here instead, since, hey, maybe the real Jay-Z can get some passing touchdowns out of him to dominate his fantasy league. We're looking at DraftKings over 1.5 plus 110. So they, what that line's telling you essentially is they expect he's going to have exactly one touchdown. No.
Yeah, interesting to see. He's had 3 the first game, 2 the second game. Again, probably against a little bit weaker opponents than BYU, but hey, I'll take 2 touchdowns. I'll take the over.
The over, yeah.
Give me that 110.
You're not even hedging. You're just going to straight out ball.
All in.
He's on our top.
On the Razorbacks.
Here, what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna favorite this guy so that we can get rid of everybody else. We'll have our favorites only, Mr. KJ Jefferson and Mr. Jamie Daniels. I think he's still favorited from last time we had this podcast. No?
Yeah, you got all my top guys on there. Oh, no Shadur though. Got to get him up there as well.
No, I'm not. I'm not a big fan of Shedeur. I'm not a big fan of him. Mr. KJ Jefferson, I got him up here though. Anybody that's you can't see what we're doing right now. Anybody just listening, I have on our player props. We have a top player props page. You can favorite your players, so you don't have to look through every one every week. You can just put in your favorites, come back to them week in and week out. I had Jaden Daniels up there from the last time that Mr. Real Jay-Z and I were talking. He wanted me to talk about Jaden Daniels, so I did. Now I got KJ Jefferson up there. So I got two quarterbacks on my favorites list that I probably do not care about at all, other than interceptions this weekend. But still, a fantastic tool, fantastic way to make things easier for you guys to get your bets in and week out.
One more I've got to jump to just to at least mention, as brief as it may be, the Oregon Ducks this week taking on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. They are currently sitting at, looks like, 38-point favorites. Best line is on Caesars Sportsbook. Obviously, we're going to hammer that. Probably make it up to 70 in game again. Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. You couldn't go an episode without talking about these Ducks, could you? You know what? This is what I'm going to do, because they didn't play so well against Texas Tech, did they, in the first half? I kind of want to check out to see what that first half line is.
Yeah, it definitely was a bit of a struggle. Texas Tech did come out and they were playing well. And yeah, it was definitely a much more competitive game than I thought. Ducks really couldn't get their running game going, which definitely didn't help Bo Nix throwing the ball around.
Well, and here's one thing we're looking at. We're looking at the game total, or the game spread, at 37. We're looking at that first half line over there on Caesars at 24. So they're thinking the Ducks are just going to come out hot and then put on the brakes a little bit, I guess. That's what these lines are telling us anyways. Which way would you go with your Ducks bet here? Would you take the full game, I'm guessing, from looking at this data?
Yeah, I mean, that probably makes sense. I mean, if Portland, I mean, if we look back to Portland State, I mean, they put up 50 in the first half and then really eased off and only put up 31 in the second. So, I mean, I guess there is that to take into account.
Yeah, there is that. I'm going to stay away from the Ducks. You know, you're not going to trick me into it this week. No, sir. A lot of weeks you do trick me into it, and a lot of times they cover, but they don't always cover. Usually a minus number, which is the problem with the Ducks. Does that wrap it up for us? Is that the last game that we're going to go into on this fine Thursday night?
I think that's what we've got for this exciting week 3 of college football coming out.
Absolutely. Love it. Hey, everyone, head over to sportsbettingintel.com. Check out our podcast episodes. Anyone that was listening to this episode that does want to look at our tools, hey, head over to YouTube. You can watch the video of us walking through all these tools. You could see it with your own eyes. Then you could jump over to our platform. A lot of the stuff we offer is free, so you can sign up for a free account and get access to a lot of that stuff anyways. And if you do want those premium tools, some of those tools we went through, our highest package right now for the public is $19.99. So you're not really paying much. Win one bet off of it, it pays off. Mr. Real Jay-Z, I know the hard ways always likes to give somebody an opportunity to say their piece before we sign off. Anything to leave the people with?
I think we hit on everything we need to get through this week, other than a closing Go Ducks.
Go Ducks. Hey, I'll echo that. Go Ducks. Go BYU defense. Let's get that pick. Let's go over one interception for Mr. KJ Jefferson. And more important than anything else, let's go Hawks. Hey, guys, you don't have to always bet. Remember, we say it over here at SBI. You do not always have to bet. It's one of our best advantages as a sports bettor. These sports books, they have to offer lines all the time, or people are going to go to their competition. We can pick and choose what we want to bet. We can limit ourselves. So, like we say, you don't always have to bet, but when you do, wager wisely.